From this it is clearly shown that every intellectual substance is incorruptible. For all corruption is through the separation of form from matter. Simple corruption indeed through the separation of substantial form, but the corruption in a certain sense by the separation of the accidental form. For form remaining matter must be, for through form substance becomes the proper receptive of that which is being. But where there is no composition of form and matter, there cannot be a separation of them. Therefore, there is no corruption. Now it has been shown that no intellectual substance is composed of matter and form. Therefore, no intellectual substance is corruptible. Further, that which pertains to something by itself necessarily and always and inseparably is in it. Just as the round is in itself in the circle, but by accident in the air. Therefore it is indeed possible for brass to be made not round, but for a circle not to be round it is impossible. But being by itself results in form. For we say by itself according to what it is, but each thing has its existence according to its form. Substances, therefore, which are not themselves of form, can be deprived according as they lose their form, just as brass is deprived of roundness according as it ceases to be circular. But substances which are forms themselves can never be deprived, just as if any substance were a circle, it could never become non-round. It has been shown above that intellectual substances are the subsisting forms themselves. It is therefore impossible for them to cease to exist. Still, in all corruption, removed from the act, the power remains, for something is not corrupted into a non-being at all, just as something is not generated from a non-being at all. But in intellectual substances, as has been shown, the act is existence itself, and the substance itself is like power. Therefore, if the intellectual substance is corrupted, it will remain after its corruption. That is absolutely impossible. Therefore, every intellectual substance is incorruptible. Again, in everything that is corrupted, there must be the potential to not exist. If, therefore, there is anything in which there is no power to not exist, this cannot be corruptible. But in the intellectual substance, there is no power not to exist. For it is evident from what has been said that the complete substance is the proper susceptive of it. Now the proper subject of an act is thus compared as a power to that act which is in no way in potential to its opposite, just as fire is so compared to heat as a potential to an act which is in no way in potential to cold. Hence, even in the corruptible substances themselves, there is no power not to be complete in the substance itself, except by reason of matter. But in intellectual substances there is no matter, but the complete simple substances themselves. Therefore in them there is no power to not exist. Therefore they are incorruptible. In addition, in whatever there is a composition of power and act, that which holds the place of the first power, or of the first subject, is incorruptible. Hence also in corruptible substances, the first matter is incorruptible. But in intellectual substances, that which holds the place of first power and subject is their complete substance itself. Therefore, substance itself is incorruptible. Now, nothing is corruptible except by the fact that it is corrupted by its own substance. Therefore, all the intellectuals of nature are incorruptible. Further, everything that corrupts either corrupts by itself or corrupts by accident. But intellectual substances cannot be corrupted by themselves, for all corruption is from the opposite. For an agent, when he acts according to what he actually is, always leads by doing to something actually being. Hence, if something is actually corrupted through this kind of being and ceases to be actually, it must happen through their contrariety to one another. For they are contraries which repel one another. And for this reason, everything that corrupts by itself must either have an opposite or be composed of opposites. But neither of these things corresponds to intellectual substances. The sign of this is that in the understanding, even those things which are opposites according to their nature cease to be opposites. For white and black are not opposites in the understanding, for they do not expel themselves, but rather achieve themselves, for by the understanding of one of them another is understood. Therefore, intellectual substances are not corruptible in themselves, similarly not by accident. For in this way, accidents and non-subsisting forms are corrupted. Now it was shown above that intellectual substances are subsisting. They are therefore absolutely incorruptible. Still, corruption is a kind of change. What must be the limit of motion, as has been proved in physics? Hence it is necessary that everything that perishes be moved. Now it has been shown in the natural world that everything that moves is a body. Therefore everything that is corrupted must be a body, if it is corrupted by itself, or some form or power of the body dependent on the body, if it is corrupted by accident. But intellectual substances are not bodies, nor are the virtues or forms dependent on the body. Therefore they are corrupted neither by themselves nor by accident. They are therefore absolutely incorruptible. Again, everything that is corrupted by the fact that it suffers something. For it is itself to be corrupted to suffer something. But no intellectual substance can suffer such a passion as to lead to corruption. For to suffer is to receive something. But what is received in an intellectual substance must be received in it in its own way, that is, intelligibly. But what is thus received in the intellectual substance is perfecting the intellectual substance and not corrupting it. For the perfection of the intelligent is intelligible. Therefore, the intelligent substance is incorruptible. In addition, as the object of the sense is sensible, so the object of the intellect is intelligible. But the sense is not corrupted by its own corruption, except because of the excellence of its object, as sight by very bright things, and hearing by loud sounds, and so on. But I say by proper corruption, because the sense is corrupted even by accident because of the corruption of the subject. However, this mode of corruption cannot happen to the intellect, since there is no act of any body as if it were dependent on the body, as was shown above. Now it is clear that it is not corrupted by the excellence of its object, because he who understands highly intelligible things does not understand less intelligible things, but more. Therefore the understanding is in no way corruptible. Further, the proper perfection of the intellect is intelligible, whence the intellect in act and the intelligible in act are one. Therefore what belongs to the intelligible, insofar as it is intelligible, must belong to the intellect as such, because perfection and the perfectible are of the same kind. But the intelligible, insofar as it is intelligible, is necessary and incorruptible, for the necessary things are perfectly knowable by the intellect. Contingencies, however, as such, do not exist except in a deficient way, for it is not knowledge of them, but opinion. Hence also the intellect has knowledge of corruptible things, inasmuch as they are incorruptible, that is, inasmuch as they are universal. Therefore the understanding must be incorruptible. Still, each is perfected according to the manner of its substance. From the mode of perfection of a thing may be taken the mode of its substance. Now the understanding is not perfected by motion, but by that which is existing outside of motion. For we are perfected according to the intellective soul, by knowledge and prudence, by restrained permutations of bodily and soul passions, as is clear from the Philosopher in 7 of Physics. Therefore, the mode of an intelligent substance is that its being is above motion, and consequently above time. But the being of any corruptible thing is subject to motion and time. It is therefore impossible for an intelligent substance to be corruptible. In addition, it is impossible for a natural desire to be in vain, for nature does nothing in vain. But every intelligent man naturally desires to be perpetual, not only to perpetuate his existence according to species, but also as an individual. This is clear. For some people have a natural appetite from apprehension, just as a wolf naturally desires the killing of the animals on which he feeds, and man naturally desires happiness. For some, however, without apprehension, from the mere inclination of natural principles, which in some is called natural appetite, as a heavy desire to be downward. But in both ways, there is in things a natural desire to be, the sign of which is that even those things which lack knowledge resist corrupters according to the strength of their natural principles, and those things which have knowledge resist them according to the manner of their knowledge. Those, therefore, lacking in knowledge, whose principles have the virtue of preserving a perpetual existence so that they always remain the same in number, naturally desire to be perpetual even in the same number. But whose principles have no power for this, but only to preserve a perpetual existence according to the same species, even so, they naturally desire perpetuity. Therefore, this difference must also be found in those in whom the desire to be exists with knowledge. That is to say, those things which they do not know to be except as they are now, they desire to be as they are now, but not always, because they do not grasp eternal existence. They desire, however, the eternal existence of the species, yet without knowledge, because the generative power, which serves for this purpose, is anterior, and not subject to knowledge. Those, then, who know and grasp eternal existence, they long for him with a natural longing. Now, this applies to all intelligent substances. Therefore, all intelligent substances always desire to be by natural desire. Therefore, it is impossible that they fail to exist. Still, whatever things begin to be and cease to be, they both have the same power. For the power to be and not to be is the same. But intelligent substances could not begin to exist except through the power of the first agent. For they are not of matter which could have presided, as has been shown. Therefore there is no power for their non-existence except in the first agent, according to which it is possible not to influence their existence. But from this power alone, nothing can be said to be corruptible. And because things are said to be necessary and contingent according to the power which is in them, and not according to the power of God, as was shown above, and also because God, who is the institutor of nature, does not withdraw from things that which is proper to their nature. Now it has been shown that it is characteristic of intellectual natures that they are perpetual. Hence this will not be taken away from them by God. Hence it is that in the psalm, "Praise the Lord from the heavens, the numbered angels and heavenly bodies are joined. He established them for eternity and forever and ever, by which the perpetuity of the aforesaid is signified." Dionysius also in the 4th chapter of De Divinis Nominibus says that because of the rays of divine goodness, intelligible and intellectual substances came to exist, and they exist and live, and have an indefatigable and undiminishing life, existing clean from all corruption, generation, and death, and elevated from unstable and fluxing variation.